What's going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys have all been having an amazing day today, but I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know how it went for me day trading wise, so let's jump right into it. And as you guys can see from the screen, right, it was a green day overall on my account. In terms of how I actually did day trading wise, I only traded SQQQ today, right, and I was able to finally hit my daily goal. So I was up 30196, right, using 30k, so I hit my 1% daily goal, and it's the first time I did it using 30k, right, ever since I scaled up. So I was very happy about that. But as you guys can see, these are all my filled orders, right? I started trading right at market open at 6:30, and I didn't stop trading till 7:52. So I did trade for about an hour and 20 minutes today, right? But let me actually go ahead and break down exactly how I was able to profit. But as far as what I saw going on, right, the Nasdaq was indicating signs of an uptrend during the pre-market hours, right, trading between the top and middle VWAP. And so what actually ended up happening, so on the bigger time frame, right, I was looking out for any potential resistance areas. As you guys can see, right, you guys can clearly agree too that we were trading at more of a resistance area where we previously tested it a few times and gotten rejected. So I knew that around this area there could act as a potential resistance area and potentially drive the Nasdaq down. And so what I actually ended up doing, right, is so I ended up focusing my attention on SQQQ. That's why you guys saw I didn't take any trades on TQs. And so what ended up happening, well, right on market open, right, we saw this thing start to shoot up a bit, and once I saw it start to actually get rejected, I started to get into SQQQ, right? But as you guys can see, on its way down, it didn't just strictly fall down, right? This thing would pop a bit and bounce off the EMA before eventually started to sell off. And right around here, right, I was up probably around $100 to $150, but this thing started to change direction. I did a good job of locking in majority of my profit, but once it did start going south, I ended up giving back some profit since I was still in, even with 25%, right? And so as it continued to climb, it eventually ended up peaking out again, right? And I thought that there could be potential for another leg up. What I mean by that is, as you guys can see, the Nasdaq was indicating signs of an uptrend, right? And although I thought it could be rejected and start to fall here, when I say there could be a potential leg up, another leg up before it falls, I mean it could make a potential another higher low, right, before it finally gets rejected and starts to change direction. And so once I saw this thing start to change direction and push up again, right, I decided to hold off until this thing peaked out again and then started to get rejected. And so that was my plan going forward. That doesn't mean that had to happen, right? This thing could have continued to pick up and surge for all I know, right? But as I mentioned, it just made sense to me that on the bigger time frames, right, we are approaching general resistance areas, as you guys can see, right? And so it just made sense to me why there was potential to get rejected here. And so that's ultimately what ended up happening. We peaked out, right, got overextended, started to sell off. I started to get into SQQQ, right, and I would add to my position. These bounces were a bit tricky, right, because as you guys can see, they ended up also having me give back profit. But eventually on this push down, right, I got back in. I would average up and size back down at areas where it could have potentially bounced, right? Like as you guys can see, this thing was bouncing off the green SMA line. And so once it approached that area, I would lock in profits. And as you guys can see though, right, it did continue to sell off. And I believe on this last push here, right, if I'm not mistaken, or this one here actually, is where I finally finished trading. So once it stopped consolidating and wanted to sell off yet again, right, I went with the flow. I try to keep it simple, and I locked in majority of my shares. I was done at 7:52, and as you guys can see that, I timed it almost pretty perfectly, right? This thing ended up changing direction from where I sold, and from that point on, right, the market started to recover. And so I'm glad I was able to walk away when I did, right, because trying to trade during this direction change could have definitely had me give back profit. I definitely wasn't expecting the market to push up the way it did, especially because of the big FOMC rate hike decision that is coming out tomorrow. But as far as the market saw, this thing did pretty well today, right? And as you guys can see, lots of news articles were talking about the rally in Bang shares bringing the market up, right? So lots of the bank shares went up. First Republic Bank apparently is in talks of being, of also filing for bankruptcy. But as you guys can see, even those shares exploded today because of all the news of the potential, federal government and all this starting to actually bail out these banks, right? And so because of that, that we did see this nice positive reaction. But, heading into tomorrow, we do have to realize that whatever gets reported is definitely going to shift the way the market, ends up reacting to it. So we are expecting a rate hike of 0.25 percentage point increase, right? Heading into tomorrow. And for all those wondering, it is going to be announced at 2 p.m. Eastern time or 11 a.m. Eastern or Pacific Standard Time, right? And so, yeah, for all of you guys who are going to tune in at 11, right, you're going to end up seeing the market react either in a positive or negative way. If we end up, having more of an increase, right, so a higher percentage point increase than the 0.25, then we can potentially see the market react in a negative way, right? But if we end up seeing that the Federal Reserve isn't as aggressive, then we could potentially see the market react positively, right? But doesn't actually mean that's going to end up happening, right? It's just how it's tended to react in the past. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today. Thank you guys so much for your time and for tuning back in. But if you guys have any questions at all, just go ahead and drop a comment and I will be more than happy to answer it. But other than that, that's pretty much everything. I will be posting a recap tomorrow, so I hope to see you guys then. And keep an eye out for the FOMC rate hike decision coming out at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right? Because as I mentioned, that can definitely shift the market. And if you guys are in stuff or holding long-term on anything, right, it can cause it to go up or down and react. So let's just keep an eye out on that. But thank you guys so much for your time. Take care and have a good rest of your day.